welcome to this week's meaningful midweek conversation with Maxine from Never Too Late Our Journey and Paul from Narrow Boat Life Unlocked. I nearly got those two then, sorry. And myself, Lisa, from A Life Full of Meaning. Well, this is going to be one of those weeks because I come to you not in the best frame of mind, but we're just going to crack on regardless. So before we get started, Maxine, you have had a very exciting morning, haven't you? And tell us where you are and what you've been up to.
At the moment we're moored in Retford on the Chesterfield, and yeah, yesterday I got a message on Facebook Messenger from Never Too Late site saying, would I like to go on a chat? Oh, nothing to lose. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. They said it was on Zoom, but I just presumed that was for the audio. 10:20 this morning, I ended up live on Channel 5 on Zoom. Luckily, some hair, but and I, yeah.
Love that. Love that. And is that aired today or is it going out tomorrow?
We spoke.
Oh, it was live as you spoke.
Yeah.
Love it. Love that. Love that. Brilliant. Brilliant. Paul, where are you and what are you up to?
Yeah, well, I moved the boat again myself yesterday, and it's funny how we were talking about this before, weren't we? Because I used to sort of panic if I had to move the boat on my own, but I'm natural now. It's like nearly 2 years of being on the boat, and I moved for about an hour and a half. I'm getting faster at going through bridges because I know David Bramley said I was a bit slow going through bridges. So I'm like Luke Skywalker now, going through the Death Star. And yeah, we've moored up in a location not far from Anderton because we've got a big event this weekend, and I can't really talk about it too much, but I think you'll all know by Sunday afternoon, hopefully. That's it.
Exciting times. Ooh. Exciting times. Oh, I love a bit of intrigue. Well, where am I? I'm here in the house and I am nursing a hangover. It's not good. It's not good, people. Not good at all. So I thought, let's take this and be inspired by it and start the conversation. Could you give up alcohol forever? That's the question I'm asking myself this morning, and I would love to hear what you think. So, can I just say before we start, I only had one glass of wine, albeit a large one, but it was just one. I didn't go on like a bender or anything, and it was lovely whilst drinking it. This morning I've woken up and I'm like, was it worth it? I'm asking myself that. So, a real quick poll from anyone who's watching and from Maxine and Paul, a yes or a no. Could you give up alcohol forever? Maxine?
No.
Okay. Paul?
A yes or no answer?
Yeah, just yes or no. What do you think?
I can't give yes or no answers.
Come on.
Yes.
Yes, you could. Okay. Yeah. So, I'd love to know. I would love to know what you think if you're watching. Kelly, she's saying yes. Mark, he is saying no. Alfie's saying yes and no.
Hang on, Alfie's too young to drink alcohol. What's going on?
So, Pete's saying we say it at every opportunity. Not sure if that's, can you give up alcohol? But yeah, anyway, yes. I mean, yes and no. I think that's maybe where I'm at, and maybe where you're at. Mark's, but although if life depended on it, begrudgingly, yes. And Pete saying every hangover we say never again. Right. So let's have a look at this alcohol conversation then. So, what role does alcohol play in your life right now? Would you say that you drink like every day, every week, or on special occasions? Where are you at with your alcohol intake? Again, just share what you're happy to share. You don't need to share anything you're not happy with.
I'm dying to hear from Maxine.
Go on, Maxine.
I drink every week, not every day, but a lot of non-alcoholic beers now and non-alcoholic gins. I don't like non-alcoholic wine. It's not what I enjoy. But a lot of the time, if we're having lager, alcoholic lager, but I do like my red wine. So a couple of glasses of red wine.
Yeah,
and more if I'm in that mood.
Is that are you inspired to drink more, Maxine, when you're feeling crap or when you're feeling great, or does it either or?
Yeah, I don't not so much if I'm feeling really crap, because I think it takes you into a bad place, and so it's a social. I wouldn't sit and drink by myself. It's only if we're friends visiting us, or if Steve and I are just having a chilled out evening with some food and everything in a bottle.
Right. Okay, thanks for sharing that. Paul, what about you? What role does alcohol play in your life now?
I think we like to have a drink socially. So, we keep saying on every vlog, we're starting our diet, but we have tried to be very good. We're not drinking in the week unless... So, yeah, there's 2 bottles of wine on. And I actually said to Auntie last night, should we have a glass of wine? And he said no. So not really missing it. But it's funny because we went to Bramble Cuttings on the canal last week, and we went there to have a really quiet afternoon and a cup of coffee and a read. And when we got there, 2 friends were there. What's the chances? There's only 3 bottles. You can fit on there. So, of course, the wine came out. And I said, no, I'm going to be good and have a cup of coffee. And then I thought, it's the day of the Queen's funeral, and in memory of the Queen, I think I'll have a glass of wine. Before you know it, it's like 5 glasses of red wine. So I'd like to think that, we're not a drink every night, but maybe a bottle a week between us.
Right. Well, for us, thanks, Paul. For us, Glenn doesn't like drinking like at home. He likes to go, if we go to a pub, he'll have a pint or 2, but he's not interested. He says it never tastes the same when he drinks, a pint at home out of a can. So, and Glenn's not a wine drinker. I go through phases. I can go for months without alcohol and I don't miss it. When I do drink, I actually like to have a glass of wine while I'm cooking, not even particularly with the meal, just while I'm in the kitchen cooking. I love that, but I haven't done that for ages. So I'll only do that if we've got like a bottle in. I'd never think to go out and buy a bottle. If people come round, I'm just like, oh, we got tea or coffee, sorry. We're like the world's worst hosts. So I can take it or leave it. I'm not bothered. But last night I thought, I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to have and we went down the pub with our friends and I had this glass of wine, and it was red wine, and I loved it. I loved it. And I love that real mellow feeling that I get when I drink red wine. And woke up this morning and I thought, it weren't worth it. It was not worth it. So, yeah. So I'm going to have a look at some of the comments, but I'd like to ask next is like, what do you get from it? Does it make you feel mellow and chilled? Does it give you confidence in social situations, or what? But let's first have a look. I've just seen I've just seen Mark. Is this an AA meeting? It could turn that way, Mark. It could turn that way. Alfie says he only has it on special events. Pete says occasionally now, not like pre-lockdown, it was pub 4 nights a week.
Blimey, Pete.
Yeah. There's actually that's a really good point, and I'm going to come back to it in a minute because that raises another question. Kelly says, I must admit I love a drink with dinner at Christmas, and even thought I would be happy to give it up forever. I would miss it at Christmas. Okay. Mark, just ordered a box of 12 bottles of bread.
If you feel like cutting down, Mark, you can send it our way.
So yes, what does alcohol give you? Is it confidence? Is it opportunity to chill out, or is it just that connection you have when you're drinking with friends? What do we get from it essentially? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Oh, go on, Maxine.
No, you're right.
Go on, Paul.
You've got a slight delay, my end. Sorry, Maxine. I jumped in then. Do you know what? I think even when I lived on my own, I think I used to like a glass of wine at night. But it is a nice thing to do with friends, isn't it? And I think a glass of wine. I don't think. See, the first time I went to Italy and I was there with Italians and we went out for a meal and they had one glass of wine all night and the conversation flowed, and it's such a different society and way of treating alcohol because, youngsters drink it at the table, don't they, in Europe? They'll have a glass of wine with the meal. And I don't get the mentality over here where people go to the pub and it's pint after pint after pint. Some people just, how can you even taste it? I just like a glass of wine and a nice conversation. Does that sound dead boring?
No, that ticks the boxes. And I love the conversation, but I'm thinking, do I need the wine? What about you, Maxine? What does it give you?
I think it's just a sociable thing, and it just chills. I must admit, a fair few years ago, I used to drink it excessively sometimes, but that's what I realised that, and so now it is sociable, chill out, and I enjoy nice red wines. So I would get lots of different bottles, not all at once. I enjoy just trying different wines and different drinks.
Right. Yeah. It's just liking the taste of something, isn't it? Like to try.
Nice food.
Yeah. I can go out and have a great time without alcohol. I know I can. And to be honest, because I won't drive if I've had even like one drop of alcohol. I'm just like it's alcohol or driving. So for me, I'm quite happy to be the driver because the alcohol bit doesn't bother me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can have a great time without alcohol. If I look back to years ago, I'm wondering, and I've never been a heavy drinker actually. My mum and dad weren't, didn't drink a lot. It's never been a big thing in our lives. But I wonder if I used alcohol as a confidence booster when I was younger. Do you recognise that? Would you say that you did the same when you were younger at all, or in social situations?
Pretty much at all until I was probably into my 30s.
So say that beginning a bit again, Maxine. I just lost you there.
I didn't hardly ever have it. It was it just didn't interest me at all. I was in situations especially with work-wise and big meetings and things in the evenings, you'd socialise because it's just to relax and help you become more social.
Thanks, Maxine. What about you, Paul? When you were younger?
Yeah, I don't think it was a confidence thing. I would just think that you felt like you fit in, and I think you'd feel like an outsider, especially when you're sort of 18 and you go in pub crawling and you go out with your mates and they're all having a laugh and a drink. And I just felt, but yeah, I've never been one for beer and lager, so that's probably a good thing, actually, isn't it? I like cider, but you can't gulp cider down. But yeah, I don't think it was a confidence thing. I think it's just that with your friends, I suppose that's a bad thing.
Well, no, I think we, we do lots of things, don't we? That unconsciously at times. It's not a conscious thing. Like I'm going to have this to fit in. It's just we do. Yeah. I think that's the way we're conditioned, isn't it? So, let's have a look at some comments. Narrowboat, Cheddington Adventures. I try not to drink during the week, but now, but at weekends I binge drink. Never good for the day after, though. I can attest to that. It's just, is it worth?
Avoid Phil at the weekend on his boat.
What's that?
Avoid Phil at the weekend if he's on his boat and he's been drinking all weekend.
Pete says, lockdown showed us we didn't need it like we thought. We are happier at home and don't need the pub as we thought. I made a note, actually, Pete, when you talked about being at the pub 4 days a week. So we've got a pub around the corner from us here, which we call our local pub. We call it our local pub, even if we're miles away, right? And we used to go to the pub religiously every Tuesday night. We used to call it Pub Tuesday. We used to go meet the same friends, have a great time. And we did that for decades, right? Every single week. We do it less frequently now. And that's still good because when we actually get together with our friends, it feels great. So, but it makes me wonder, there's a lot of people down the pub that we go to that go really frequently, like every day sometimes, just for a pint, or they're there for, hours. And I wonder if things like pubs offer us the other thing that I think that we're ingrained to search out, which is community. And a pub gives us that opportunity to be part of a community. What do you think, Maxine?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was brought up in a pub for a few years. Set times when you knew who was coming in because they used to come and meet each other, and they do. But it was so they could have their chat and everything like that. I must admit, we never have had to go out if we fancy going out, and could be anywhere. But I've seen a lot of the same people, and they'll do the same thing every day. And it's just to meet up with friends. If they're lonely or anything like that, it gives them, a bit of purpose, and so they can go and find they're lonely.
I do, as I've said before, loads of times. I think, connection is something that I think we're hardwired. Even the introverts in this world, we're hardwired to seek out and connect with people. And I just think that places like pubs offer that. What do you reckon, Paul?
What was your question again?
It was about the role pubs play, or not just pubs, but places. Essentially, the places where we get alcohol. It's
anywhere where you go to drink. I mean, I used to go 3 times a week, but I was just as happy going and not drinking because I was usually designated driver. But then you'd go for a dance and you'd go for a drink, and I must admit, when I was younger, I think I enjoyed having a drink more than not having a drink because you sort of you're more relaxed, aren't you? So you're happier getting up on the dance floor and having a dance and chatting to strangers. But Yeah, and then, you know, for a while, yeah, I can see what you're saying about pubs. It's a difficult one, but for us, I think that pubs are almost a dying trade, and especially since lockdown, I think most pubs only survive now if they do good food. And
Yeah.
I think people realise you can have a glass of wine at home or a can of beer or whatever, but then to go out with friends and family and have that social evening, I think more people are turning to meals at a pub than drinking at a pub. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do.
So I do agree, but the pub where we go, let's just say we don't go there because of the food, right? The food for the last couple of years has been spot on, but over the years when we've been there, I mean, we think it's a bonus if everyone's food just comes out hot. I mean, we're winning if that happens.
Classy place.
Yeah. But I agree. I think good food. Well, it's those things, isn't it? Good food, friends, conversation, and alcohol can just enhance that. You know, can enhance that. So, so let's have a look. Oh, Mark, I tell you, Mark, you are welcome here. I am the bad apple here. I'm also a member of CAMRA. That's the I can't remember what that stands for, isn't it? But that's like real ale stuff, the proper grown-up beer. It's a social thing. Over the years, I've found I have limits on the amount I can drink, then stop. That's a good point, Mark, because I think maybe when we're younger, we only discover those limits when we overstep them. And also, I'm thinking of an occasion where I weren't that young. It weren't that long ago when I learned the term legless meant actually you couldn't feel your legs. This was about 6 years ago. I still remember the night. It was a mighty fine night, and I drank a lot of whiskey. I went to an alcohol tasting event, you know, where you have like little thimbles of like whatever. Anyway, we were drinking lots of whiskey, and the people I was drinking with didn't like whiskey, so I was just drinking it all. And then we went from whiskey to gin to wine to whatever. I think it was the gin. We did it all. We tasted the whole menu, and I stood up and I could not feel my legs. I was completely legless. Oh man, that took me a week to recover from that, but it was a mighty fine evening. Anyway, so Pete says ours was for community. Living in a tourist town, the pub was locals' meeting place. Like meeting places, a sea of strangers. I think when you live in an area that's full of tourists, it's nice to have an opportunity to connect with your neighbours. Yeah. So see, I'm not the only one that experienced a tasting event. Mark says we would attend local beer festivals for several hours, eating and tasting lots of beers and ales. So my brain is really working quite slowly, but if you think of some questions, let me know. Can I just say, I think it's easier now than ever before to think about giving up alcohol because there's so many alternatives available. Non-alcoholic alternatives. You touched on that earlier, Maxine. Whereas years ago, if you weren't drinking, you had the choice of what was the wine you had the choice of? Was it like Black Tower or something like that? It was called. Do you remember that from the 80s? It was like it was bad.
I remember Black Tower. I don't know it was non-alcoholic.
Oh, maybe it wasn't that. Maybe there was a couple of famous like brands that were non-alcoholic, and that was it. But I think now, because more and more people are going alcohol free, I think it's easier when you go out, not to be the odd one out. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did give up alcohol for about, I can't remember if it's 3 months or 6 months. I know Anthony gave up alcohol for 3 months when we were on a really strict diet. And when I was going to the gym all the time, I thought it's empty calories. And it's, when you're going to be that healthy and you're watching your calorie intake and how much protein you get, it was so much easier for me to not drink alcohol. And I'd have a glass of fizzy water, which to me, my problem is if I have a juice or a Coke, it's gone in seconds, and people are still drinking the glass of wine or the beer. If I get sparkling water, it tends to last me a bit longer.
Great question, actually, Paul. What is everybody's non-alcoholic go-to if they go to a pub or a restaurant? Mine is a pint of lime and soda. I love it. It feels refreshing. It is actually a favorite drink, so that's mine. Maxine, have you got one?
I drink lime and soda, but it's got to only have a really, really small amount of lime. Too strong.
Oh, really? I'm the opposite. Really, I'm like, I'll have a double shot. I'll have a double shot of that lime cordial.
A pint of blackcurrant juice for me. That's like when I was working at the holiday parks. It's really good, like loads of ice. It was really good for my throat as well.
Yeah.
I'd be going to the toilet all night. Man, you do with alcohol, don't you?
Well,
I hate that feeling though. About that. Sorry, Lee. Talking about that night you were legless, and I think we've all had that feeling where we get into bed and the room's spinning. And it's just like being on a roundabout, and you think, "Oh, why have I drunk so much?"
Horrible.
It's not worth it.
It's horrible. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Mark had a near legless experience on the Napa Valley wine train in California. I mean, that just sounds great, doesn't it? Napa Valley wine train. Love it. And Mark also says, lime and soda, yes, or Coke. The trouble is with like fizzy drinks like Coke or lemonade or whatever, I can only drink so much of it. And then I'm a bit like, I'm like, I can't do. I'm a wash with Coke. It's not, Anyway, talking of Coke, this leads us on to my next question that I've just thought of. Yeah. What's worse, alcohol or drugs?
Ooh. Bloody hell.
Well, I could give up drugs. I've got to admit, I've never really experienced drugs in any way, so that doesn't even come up.
Yeah, that then, Maxine, never really.
No, never. I'm thinking paracetamol, but what do we think is? I mean, these are massive questions that we can't possibly answer. But when I was growing up, right, in the 80s as a teenager, it was like, say no to drugs, just say no. And it was like drugs, like, bad. But nobody saw alcohol as a bad thing. It just wasn't. Yeah. It was just part of society. And it makes me wonder, I'm not saying drugs are a good thing, not at all, right? But it makes me wonder whether there's not enough, I think there's more awareness now of, the negative effects of alcohol. But yeah, it just makes me wonder that whole drugs or alcohol question. I'm not saying, any of
it's a good point, isn't it? I think it's more acceptable to sit and have a drink in a pub. And I know drugs are becoming more widespread, and I think that's a real shame. I'm really anti-drugs and never really done anything like that. I'll put my hand up here. I once had some space cake. And I couldn't walk. A glass. It was a bottle of champagne and some space cake. But it was funny. But I've never felt the need to do it again. But I think it's more acceptable to sit in a social environment and drink alcohol than
Yeah.
drugs. I mean, unfortunately, it wasn't a close friend, but we met him a few times. He was a really intelligent guy, and he was a friend of a friend, really. And we used to go out to the theatre. He had a really good job. He had an alcohol problem, and he died before he was 30 due to
No
alcoholism.
way.
So, I think I hear that more people dying from alcohol problems than drug problems. I'm not saying, drugs are
Yeah.
better.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
like it can be as addictive, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We have, a couple of family members who, alcohol addiction has played a big role in their life, and it affects the rest of the family. It does, and it's something that sometimes we don't realize how seriously it impacts people's health. So yeah. What do you reckon, Maxine, about I don't even want to say like what's more dangerous, drugs or alcohol,
No.
but what I'm saying is, do we underestimate the danger of alcohol?
I think we do underestimate it. Yeah, I am very anti-drugs, and I was the same as you. But I tried this many years ago. I had 2 puffs on a cigarette, but I was so ill, and everybody said I was hilarious because I couldn't walk straight. It was horrible, and I just think it's the damage it does to everybody else as well. And the same as alcohol, it's not just the damage it's doing to that individual, it's the bigger picture, and it affects the whole thing. And so I think they're both, when they become excessive, they're both, because it's the outlook on that person, the damage it does, because they can't hold life. It affects them, even if it's drugs or alcohol.
Yeah, or to be honest, anything that we're using to make life more bearable, because I think sometimes that's the crux of it, isn't it? We use something, I mean, we're talking alcohol, we're talking drugs. It could be shopping, it could be sex, it could be, binge eating, it could be, a myriad of things that people use to cope with life. And then it becomes, in fact, I remember years ago, in my 20s, when I had an eating disorder, the behavior that I was doing was I thought helping me cope, and then it becomes the thing that's no longer helping, and it's the thing that's then becomes such an impact on your life, and is the barrier to helping, if that makes sense, or it's another issue that you've got to deal with. So I just think it's not just alcohol, but things that make us, that we think are helping, that end up so let's
Pete and Sue are being very honest. Pete and Susan.
yeah, let's have a look. Pete, I took drugs in the 80s and 90s and New Year 2000, and I was a mess. I walked home on all fours thinking I was a dog. Never tried since. Wow, thanks for sharing, Pete. That's really honest. And let's have a look. Susan, crikey, I spent most of the late 60s smoking some slightly funny ones under Margate Pier. Didn't drink, though. It was just normal then. That's interesting. That's really interesting, Susan, because I think for younger people these days, drugs are normal in a way that they never were in my community when I was growing up. Does that make sense? I think they're more readily available, and they're just normalized. So Susan says, I think alcohol is worse, really. I grew up with an alcoholic. I think I prefer a bit of weed. Yeah, there's Heidi, just keep it real. One rum a day keeps the doctor away. Yeah. And Mark, I was at uni in the 90s and saw the effects of drugs on other course members, and that put me off. The bad trips I've witnessed don't need that. I do think that, as with anything in life, our friends, the people closest to us, you know, it's what we normalize and see, isn't it? So Sally, I've had an eating disorder since I was 14 years old, and I'm still struggling at the age of 58. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Sally. When I had my eating disorder, they warned me, I suppose the word was, is that eating disorders that behavior can carry on through your life. It's very difficult to, I hate the word cure, but you know, cure yourself. And I feel incredibly fortunate that I've completely changed everything about my life from that time. Well, I don't think I've changed my thinking, which changes my behavior, if that makes sense. But you know, I think eating disorders and addictions, you know, they're common. A lot of people struggle, and we do the stuff that we think is going to help us feel better. So yeah, you're not alone, Sally. So what was I going to say next? We've gone dark, haven't we? We've gone deep. We have, and I love that. I love that. It's like, you know, it's the tough stuff that it's the tough stuff. It's real life, isn't it? So we've talked about alcohol. I think I could give it up. Susan's, but addiction of any sort are tough, and I think there's more than we realize. Absolutely. And I think more than, if you like, official addictions, you know, we know, you know, we can recognize something as an addiction. Sometimes it's easier to recognize it in others, but I think we all have behaviors, you know, that we might not recognize as addictions, but things that we use to self-soothe, if you like, to make us feel better. So Pete's just said, major sugar addiction here. Yes, it's real. Well, that is what I was coming on to. So we've said about alcohol. Could you give that up forever? What about chocolate? Oh, go on, Maxine.
Oh, now
tell us.
I wouldn't. If I had, if it was something to do with my health, then yes, I could, because I had a daughter that she was diabetic, so she didn't have chocolate, and so we didn't have it in the house. So but if it's not, no, because as long as it's dark chocolate, I don't mind about. But now and again, with a glass of red wine and some dark chocolate, that is just bliss.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul, what about you? Could you give up chocolate forever?
No. Definitely not. If it was a choice of wine and chocolate, I'd give up the wine. And do you know what's interesting though? I think I've said this before. When I was on this health kick, sorry to keep going on about it.
Yeah, no, go.
I'd have maybe one piece of dark chocolate, and every few nights or once a week, and it tasted like heaven. And I think maybe that's what we need to do, is sort of cut back on the things that make us feel good, and then we appreciate it more when we've got it. Because again, you know, cake. If you've not had cake for ages because you've been on a diet, and then you have that piece of cake, It's to die for, isn't it?
It is. It is. Well, could I give?
Slavering.
I'm just like we all need cake now. I mean, to be honest, all I've had all morning is chocolate biscuits. So,
Nice.
could I give up chocolate forever? I could give up alcohol forever.
Yeah.
I am not sure about chocolate. I think what Pete says, sugar addiction is real. I think it's just like it's a chemical thing. Heidi says I could cut back to half a rum a day, but couldn't give up chocolate. Susan, no, we all need chocolate, even in small doses. I can only have it a bit now and then. Alfie, giving up sweets I can't do because my family is opening a sweet shop.
You'll get sick of them, Alfie.
Oh, Annie loves chocolate too. That's I couldn't do that. Susan says, anyway, it's an aphrodisiac and feeling sexy is good for your mental health. Absolutely. Now there's a reason we can't give up chocolate. Oh,
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that's one. Maybe we'll talk about that another week. So giving up chocolate, no, let's never talk about that.
In the same way, Lisa and Maxine, I couldn't give up coffee. I mean, I did a detox once. Oh God, my head was pounding by the end of the day. And it's like, no chocolate, no wine, no coffee.
No joy, no happiness.
I told you what Anthony's brother-in-law said. When I was going on this cruise ship, he said, oh, you're not going to be all pious on this holiday having salads and having no cake. I said, the thing is, Richard, you could live longer. And Richard said, no, it just feels longer. Which is ironic because now he's thinner than me and he's dieting. So yeah.
Really, well, that's I don't know. I think it's a really tough one. I've had some good news this week while we're on the sugar thing. So I had my diabetes blood test last week, and I was really dreading the results. And the doctors rang me yesterday. I thought, oh, here we go. Like, you know it's bad when they're ringing you. Yeah, here we go. So I speak to the receptionist. She said, oh, your blood tests have come back abnormal. Oh, okay. Your cholesterol's really high. Oh, okay. I said, how did my diabetes, what's my diabetes level? And she went, hold on a second. She looked down, she goes, oh, satisfactory. Brilliant. I mean, I was so happy because that's come down, right? So she said satisfactory. I heard outstanding. That's what I heard, right? So the thing is, that has dropped, right? And I have ate less cake and less chocolate, although not this morning. And I've done loads of exercise. And that's dropped. Honestly, it made me so happy. I was so pleased with myself that, it was satisfactory stroke amazing, brilliant, But anyway, I just thought I'd share. That made me happy. So
very good. Well done.
Yeah. On that wonderful note, I've really, really enjoyed today's conversation. Thank you to everybody who has shared. I really love hearing everyone's views and opinions on alcohol and whether we can live without it forever. It's just the forever bit that makes it a no, isn't it? Maybe if we just took it every day. Could I live without alcohol today? Yes. Maybe I just need to do that every day. I don't know. But thank you.
I could go on a holiday and not drink alcohol. That's strange, isn't it? Because I'm not working.
Yeah, that's strange, isn't it? It's what the triggers, the social settings and the places. We should have talked about that a bit more. I think that would be really interesting. And maybe for another conversation of like where where, when, why would be a good one for that. So anyway, we've been chatting for ages. I better let you all go, otherwise we'll be here for hours. So thank you, Maxine. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to everybody who's joined in and taken part. And I really look forward to chatting next week. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye.